Truth Frequency Radio Network. K-TFRN. Worldwide.
Hola, this is Sienna inviting you to join me tonight as we navigate through the seen and the unseen, explore external and internal realities, expose on-world and off-world agendas, discover a path to joy and freedom. Now, join me as we illuminate the Shadowland and reclaim our birthright as free and sovereign beings.
Good evening, everyone. This is Sienna, and this is episode 19 with Emma Stow, UK astrologer, and I'm calling this episode, Why Am I Feeling So Strange? As we know, I'm very honored to have Emma on the show tonight. She carries an amazingly beautiful light and perspective, and she believes astrology is changing in ways undreamed of even a few years ago. As the stars influence us, we too are influencing the stars, planets, and universe. She's bringing astrology into a new paradigm of co-creative self-empowerment. Welcome to the show, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me here as a guest, Sienna. Just such an honor and delight to be here with you.
Well, I'm so delighted that we did this part 1 2 weeks ago, and the power went out in the entire village beforehand. So I'm grateful that the powers that think they still are letting us through tonight. I'm going to dive right into this because there's a lot to talk about. So everybody just relax, get a cuppa, and just share with us in the energy because we are here with a very special lady. 2 special ladies, okay. So many of us are experiencing some very strange feelings lately. And so I would like to dive into asking you, what the heck is going on?
Well, it's been it's been quite a week. We're dealing with such powerful energies coming from the sun. And we're also, today, there is a total solar eclipse of the sun. So we've had 4 X-class solar flares in the last week, and X-class flares are the most powerful of the solar flares. And solar flares just eject this very highly charged wind towards the planet. So really, what we're experiencing is physical transformation from being in an environment whose vibration is really shifting due to the impact of the solar energy, and just us being in this new energetic environment is shifting our cellular vibration, and that's really what's causing these really intense experiences, and it's physical. Actually, it's physical and emotional, because the emotions are stored in the physical body. So when we're interacting with this very highly charged energy coming in, we are the rate of the vibration in our cells increases, and it brings all the emotions that are maybe stored in the body to the surface. So it can be very emotional for people. It can be very exciting for people, because on the other side of that, be it emotions or pain or whatever is triggered, because really solar energy and especially eclipses are really are triggers of experience. So whatever we are not facing in ourselves for whatever reason will be triggered by these energies. So it's almost like this period is facing the whole of ourselves. in a very focused period of time, particularly this week and this weekend with this whole month, actually, the whole month of November. So everything within us that needs our attention is brought to the surface for us to engage with consciously, and that gives us the opportunity to move through it. It actually is a doorway to our own personal freedom. It's a remarkable opportunity if we can remember to recognize it as such during the fluctuations of experience that we go through.
Wow. The whole month of November?
I didn't tell you that before.
I thought we were done tomorrow. Oh, God.
No, this is just the beginning.
Okay, this is just very, very intense. And I know people are experiencing it in different ways. I have been exhausted, but it is a kind of, it's coming with a feeling of, I don't want to be anything that I've ever been. I'm done doing everything I've ever done. It's just almost this animus, like I'm going to lay here until I can get up and be in a completely different reality. It's like, well, that doesn't sound really realistic, but it's an unstoppable urge. And it's like I have no energy for anything but what is the new energy, what is new connection, what is not part of this reptilian archontic matrix. And it's challenging because, of course, we're not totally, I mean, the entire outer dimension hasn't melted into this quite yet. I don't know. That's my experience in Ecuador. How are you doing over there in the UK?
Well, it's really, like you say, aligning to these new energies, because this is a very new energetic environment for us. And we just, it's a brand new experience to consciously engage with the transformation taking place. So it can feel really disorientating, and in a way it's totally natural, and it's an organic process. It's an organic process that is lovingly orchestrated to actually serve us, which is one thing that's really worth bearing in mind. But like you say, we're removing our investment in the past, in those past energetic templates, which of course we were part of, and so it's a process of removing the part of ourselves that was invested in those old, outmoded energetic templates, and withdrawing that to invest ourselves in these new energetic templates that are actually serving us more, and the planet and the solar system and beyond. So it's really just a process of realignment, and it's taking place through us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've noticed that it is like really getting unmasked, and whatever I haven't been facing in terms of maybe a relationship I really wanted to happen, but I'm not looking it straight in the face. Whatever I haven't been looking straight in the face is hurling up, and then I have to remember to keep it in balance, to not let it overwhelm me, and to completely go for a dive, but to let it clear. But there's some, it's like right at the bottom of the fish tank, there's some grimy stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly where we are, in a way, at the bottom of the fish tank, so that we can get out of the tank. You know? And it's like that's where the exit is, and instinctively we do tend to turn away from any pain or any emotions that we find negative within ourselves, or our instinct is to really avoid that, and that's actually what causes all the problems, because we're busy avoiding what is surfacing at this time for our attention. So if we can just actually face whatever is triggered and whatever arises, actually just acknowledge the fears within ourselves about that, then actually we're empowered in the process instead of being disempowered by the process.
But it does feel a little bit, Emma, like the toilet is just overflowing, okay? I don't know where I put the plunger. And then I just have to remember self-love. I have to remember to embrace it all, to be okay with it, to find my sense of humor, to find some acceptance of all that it is, and just let it run all through me. And it's yucky. It's not feeling good, Emma. I mean, then it's feeling really good. And it's such a incredible roller coaster ride, really, because boy, it's really showing me that the shadow work is so crucial, and just allowing these skeletons and demons and frustrations and disappointments and the things that really, really are crummy to feel, to just be there and love them all to death, so to love them into integration. And then it's moving really quickly, actually. It's moving through really quickly if I do that. Well,
that's exactly it. What we find with the shadow work is that exactly what you said, that there's this accelerated rate now with which these feelings move or transformed. So even though there's much more coming up, it's actually we process it so much faster. I mean, what would take years before can now just take a couple of hours.
And I also feel, Emma, that there's some people, some of us know people consciously who are doing this. Some, I think, are doing it, they don't know what, that they're taking on because of their pure hearts, the transmutation of the collective unconscious itself. Because everything needs to be cleared, and there aren't that many people who are sensitive enough or care enough or have the depth of open in themselves. Their souls aren't activated enough, perhaps, to be those conduits. So I know people that are just going through hell right now. I think they're doing it for all of us, because this stuff needs to move, and I don't think there's enough people that are aware enough to really embrace this. I'm joking, and I'm complaining and moaning and everything, but really I feel super called to just be with this energy and rest and meditate, and I'm going very inner, and I want to be available for whatever needs to transmute, because we have to understand that there's a lot of gunk at the bottom of this fishbowl that we have not really transmuted, and so I think some people are doing it unconsciously, and they may be seeing demons, they may be having psychotic breaks, they may be going through some really scary altered states of consciousness. Have you been experiencing anything like that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are dealing with it unconsciously, and that is really painful. Because if you don't have a larger framework within which to put these experiences, it can be quite bleak. So, what I wrote yesterday was that the way that we serve, because as you said quite rightly, we're all participating in this collective transformation by how we choose to engage with it personally. And some people don't have, for whatever reason, they may not have had the opportunity, but some people don't have the conscious access or the awareness to their own light, what I call their own light. So they are completely identifying with the feelings that arise, and they're actually seeing that as who they are. So they're identifying with those feelings, and that's really painful, because those feelings just come up to be for transformation. And yes, like you say, that's also for the collective, and that's a huge process. That's even beyond our planet, and that transformation is almost one of the reasons why we incarnated, because we are agents of transformation like the stars. And that transformation is a constant process of receiving and giving back energy, and that's our universal dialogue. So for us that can understand that, and that'll be the majority, that'll be people listening to this show, the way we can serve those people that are going through hell is by being able to access our own light, which we are doing for them. Because, the more we understand ourselves as our connections, it actually gives much more meanings to our own personal journeys through this, because it's not only for our human family, but but for the planet itself and beyond that. And we are more than capable of doing this, regardless of how it feels. I mean, people tend to judge their experiences by, the level of comfort or not that they're in. But one state is just leading to another. I mean, as this experience demonstrates, because it's, we can experience pain one minute and total exhilaration the next. So for all the suffering that's going on, there are some just extraordinary creative opportunities presenting themselves. And when we are engaging consciously with this process, we're just having glimpses of our own divine nature, because fundamentally we're being, our soul is, our physical body is coming into alignment with our light body. So the physical process that's taking place, that's triggered by these solar energies, is restoring, is uniting our physical body with our soul essence. So they are united, and so everything that doesn't match the vibration of our highest expression, of our highest vibration, is dislodged. And so it's just this process of coming into the union with our divine selves, and we who can consciously engage with that or understand that, which we can, are assisting all of those that can't. And that's really helpful because we don't need to get caught up in their suffering. It's not, we can serve them from our own empowerment, because I know there's still, with empathetic individuals, which we are, we can want to get involved with what's going on from a place that is not empowered for us personally. So it's also about honoring our own relationships and engaging in the world from a place of personal empowerment, and that is really our contribution. That's how we're really going to, by holding our ground within this and understanding ourselves as divine beings. And that's really different from wading into the drama and whatever society tells us that is important to us, actually. Because there's what I'm seeing is quite a gap between our social engagement and this process of transformation where we're being restored to our divine nature. And I would just encourage people to, when they're watching the news or whatever's going on in their lives, in their community, to actually really connect into themselves to understand whether this really has any relevance to what is taking place for them right now. Because sometimes I'm thinking, when I see what's going on in the media, and that can even be in the alternative media, sometimes I just don't feel it's resonant. It does not resonate. And also it distracts from this beautiful rebirthing and process that's taking place. And if we really want to make a difference, it's understanding how we just simply by example, because that example, it's not like people just look at you and think, oh, right, I can be like that person. But it's actually a contribution of resonance. You know, because if we're moving into a way of being that is much more purely energetic, let's say, and we have to understand ourselves as energetic beings. And so we're dealing with resonances and frequencies here. We're interacting through light and vibration. So understanding that can give you a real key to accessing the potential of this time and assisting others through it. Because that is all part of it. Like you say, we are all in this together, and everyone has such a unique part to play in this. I mean, we're united by our humanity, but if you really connect to the infinite essence of another or the soul of another, they are so unique. I mean, this resonance that I speak of, this in fact, it's a resonance of love that resides in everyone, and they are consciously connected to it at different levels. But it's so unique. It is so unique to every single person, and you actually can't really know what that person's role is. They may look completely lost and in despair, but something really profound is taking place for them, and that's part of their journey of freedom. So, yeah, we all have very unique roles, and it's for us also to step more confidently into these roles instead of looking to others or any kind of external authority or who we may think knows best to show us the way, but to understand that if we each have a completely unique role in this process, then if we're connecting powerfully to that, we will be our own best guiding light. And not only our own best guiding light, but the best guiding light for humanity.
I just love hearing you say that. It's very strengthening, and I hope that people are listening and can play this for their sons and their daughters and the people that are feeling very, very lost. And as we keep on re-referencing back to what is dysfunctional and dying and decaying and a part of the problem, when we're frightened, we want to put on the old suit, even if it's stinky and torn and doesn't fit us anymore, and it's all we've had. And this understanding of our own divinity, we talk about it a lot, but I'd like to hear, we're going to the break in about 4 minutes, but how do you see the divinity of each human being as in terms of the uniqueness of that soul essence?
Well, yeah, I'd love to comment on what you just said, because I felt that was the theme of the week for me, was the end of certain, or what I called the release of outlived definitions like identities, like social identities, our jobs, how we define ourselves. And I saw that as being released through us, and that in essence causing pain, because we can't identify ourselves as something. Because moving into the divine essence or the expression of that is beyond all those definitions. It simply cannot be contained by a definition, and it's very inconvenient. Because even myself, it's nice to be known as an astrologer. You can, when people ask you, "What do?" You can say that, or you can define yourself as a parent or a wife or a husband, or in some kind of job role. But in that has no relation to your essence. So, or who you are as a universal being. So just moving, because this is happening despite ourselves. This process is just happening, whether we choose to or not. And when we engage it, we can recognize this. Understanding ourselves as divine beings, so actually, which is the truth of who we are. It's not sort of fantasy or speculation. We are divine beings. We are gods. We are universal creators, and so we're getting used to having that much freedom, that much power, that much creativity, and you can just feel it emerging with you, and that's quite scary, also because it's like if you've been in prison for a long time, having even faced with your freedom, it's daunting, and you need to learn even how to be free.
Yeah, when they open the prison door, even if you have a canary or an animal or bird you've caged and you open the door, they often won't leave.
Yeah.
And repeat criminal offenders, why? They don't know how to live in the world outside of prison. Mm. It's a challenge, and this is the challenge we're up against as humanity. We've been in the prison cell for a long, long time, and now we need to take our freedom, no matter how intimidated it is. And it's true, it's happening despite ourselves, and we have to recognize this. I think a lot of people are quote-unquote going crazy at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not at all. Their soul is calling them home, and it's an unstoppable impulse, and the people around them are thinking that they're losing their minds. We're going to go to break in about 14 seconds. How do we get hold of your wonderful book, Revolution of Being, and what is your website?
Okay, my website's Emma Stow.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Sienna Leia with Illuminating the Shadowland on Truth Frequency Radio Network, and my guest tonight, Emma Stow. Emma, I was wondering if you would be so kind to give us your website again. That got cut off as we were going into the commercial break.
Sure, it's emmastow.com, STOW.com.
And going into the second half, are you up for reading this that you put out in the newsletter, or where do you want to take this now? I really like what you wrote, because it just got a lot of specific points that I think we need to hear.
Yeah, sure. I can read out the end of my newsletter, which is really focusing on the eclipse. So what I wrote was, this eclipse marks a definitive turning point for us personally and globally, a decisive break with the past and our involvement with it, should we choose. Up for review will be the uses of power in both finance and relationships. Symbols of the sign Scorpio, because this eclipse is, just to let you know, is in the sign of Scorpio, are the scorpion, the eagle, the dove, and the phoenix, the mythical firebird that arises from the ashes. Scorpio dares to face the worst within itself, and through forgiveness soars to great freedom. It plummets the depths where it finds gold to enable it to reach the heights. Its power is in transformation. Here's to the flames in your heart from which the phoenix rises this solar eclipse.
Beautiful. You know, I've gotten a lot of email communications and Facebook communications with people who are breaking this down a bit, talking about all these extreme identities of their egos that were coming up in their face, just things that are incredibly uncomfortable when you realize you've been a bit of an a-hole, forever, and now you see it clearly, and now you know why every relationship you've ever had is totally tanked and you blamed everyone else. And I mean, it's like a moment, right, where you go, oh, just shoot me. And it's at that moment where we go, no, don't shoot yourself. You know, you're getting, it's this humanizing when we're moving through this debris, this yucky stuff, these divine, horrible, the terrible truth, the awful truth of what we have been involved in. Oh, it's certainly coming out in the news, alternative media, all over the world, the horror of what we've been involved in while we were sleeping, and it's happening personally. We wake up to the horror of how we've been showing up for ourselves and for others and our careers and everything, and it can feel sometimes pretty devastating. So I wanted to talk about coping skills a little bit. How do you really roll with that?
Well, I think you're talking about that moment when we realize we're responsible for our lives, when we take responsibility and we can't blame anything anymore, and that's the beginning of us understanding ourselves as these universal creators. So dealing with that that's really where self-love comes into it, because it takes a strong stomach, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of understanding, because in your innocence, often people in their innocence have been involved in what they now see to be very unscrupulous activities. And they get to a point in their life where they understand that everything in life has a reaction which they personally experience. I mean, as in everything we do in life, we're actually at the receiving end of at one time or another, and people eventually get to understand that just through living. And so when you are at that process of finding it hard to forgive yourself for whatever you have done in life, it's important to understand that many of these actions were actually carried out for survival, or what was perceived to be survival. And many people didn't think they had a choice. Many people didn't have a choice. And so things are, it's very lucky for us in the Western world. We also have a lot more opportunities. But at the beginning of this turning point, of facing the worst in ourselves, what I call facing the worst in ourselves, it takes a great deal of understanding yourself as actually this innocent being who thought there was no other way. And actually acted out of fear, and the person who suffered the most from that was you. So it's starting with acknowledging yourself for what you actually have lived through as a divine being who has compromised their values to an extent that has caused a great deal of suffering, and to acknowledge the feelings that you have about this, or whatever you may not be able to forgive. And that can even include what has been any offenses that have been directed towards you too. So even as a victim or a perpetrator, finding yourself, understanding when you understand yourself as a divine being, you can understand all those experiences as having got you to the place where you can awaken. And you can also understand it to be really what has facilitated your soul's refinement.
Well, I don't want to cut you off there, but
No.
What's coming up as you're speaking is we're so conditioned with the inner judge, the the castigating, the stern Yahweh, patriarchal God, the condemner. He's always there. And this is partly why we try to be such good boys and girls, because we don't want to be punished, but that punishing voice is inside of our own beings. And so we keep hiding from the truth, because the punishment that we will actually give to ourselves once we recognize how out of integrity we've been, we're scared of that. And I think that when we talk about self-love, it's a changing of structures, because we have used that inner voice, which we've called a conscience, but it's really a slave master that's been internalized in our own, we've called it the superego, in our own beings, and it will come up because it's been, we've been mind controlled to have it, to internalize it through school, through all of the authoritarian structures that we're in. And if we get, there really is no punishment. There is just course correction here. And I think that's what you're talking about. And so I just wanted to make that point as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's radical. That's what I've talked about in terms of up for review are the uses of power, and it starts with the self, right? Everything starts with the self in a way. And we're so used to imposing our power on ourselves and control through. This is changing from a system of interaction which is based on control to a system of interaction that's based on respect. And that starts with ourselves. And as you said, that's radical. That's really radical, because that's been quite entrenched in many different ways.
Well, self-hatred, self-hatred, putting ourselves down. A lot is actually fashionable in the Matrix.
Yes, it is. It's if you even watch any kind of film, they make entertainment out of this. It's just like it's actually the most common sort of plot line.
Yeah, we're ashamed of ourselves and be embarrassed to be ourselves and be frightened to be authentic, and we have to create all of these big dramas and get somebody to marry us or commit to us before we'll ever let go of a layer into our vulnerability, whereas it's our radical self-responsibility to strip ourselves down to where what we really are is expressing itself. Because what we really are is what you're saying, that love, it's our humanity and our divinity. That's what we really are. And our soul is calling us home to that. It's nothing to do with being popular, being successful, or being anything for anyone else, or even through the criteria that we hold in our own egoic minds. It's none of that. And there's so much bombardment to not step out of line here. And so I love the way you speak about the call home, the call and
because from the perspective of the heart, it all makes sense. That's the point, that when you actually connect to your heart and this infinite essence that you are, none of those experiences or transgressions or whatever you have experienced have any definition, can no way define you, are no way, they're part of you in terms of having assisted you to even find that connection in the first place, because it's actually the emotions, the power of our emotions that really force us to change. And at the heart of this change is recognizing ourselves as God, and the God that really, as you said, the real God doesn't judge. And the new energetic template is free from those kind of limitations that have kept us bound for so long, and in judgment and shame. But it's for us to be our own best friend and lover, and this to know the value of fostering this relationship, actually. And I think that's very different because we're still used to seeking love and an acknowledgement and support from outside of ourselves. And so just turning this whole focus inwards to acknowledge ourselves primarily as the divine light of the world that we are is really our key to freedom. And from that place, everything makes sense. And in fact, the transgressions of the world just can't touch you. Really can't touch you. If we all tune into that part of us that is infinite and divine, it's nothing can touch it. That's why nothing can touch infinity.
That's very powerful. And it's those trailblazers, pioneers, each person that's willing to do this, because it is not a popular concept. Because you're saying, I no longer believe in you, church. I no longer believe in you, teacher. In terms of power over me, of me making less of myself so I get to belong to your club, that I disconnect with my own divine authority and my own human authority and my own personal integrity to speak my truth and manifest my energetic reality, and at whatever consequence, that it's game over, that is more of a step on that over that line, then things are going to change here. There are still billions of people that are cowering and hiding in the shadows of authority structures that make it very difficult, through tremendous trauma and tremendous pain. And we understand why it's that way, but the beautiful thing is this new energy is so delicious, and it's so merciful, and it's so judgment, and it's so much for all of us, and it is so God. It's just the reawakening. It's all of this solar active is reawakening our own connection, literally the neurological, the meridian flows, the connection is awakened. One that does not need to, meditate for 30 years or go off to an ashram or do any of these spiritual practices. I don't believe anymore. It's just there. It's absolutely there for everybody, every moment, more than it's ever been here, it seems.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think the intensity of the energies that we've been at the receiving end has been the greatest spiritual teachings that we've ever had. I mean, it's like almost centuries worth of evolution in a few years. I mean, really, it is. And I suppose I recognize the opportunities. I recognize the possibilities of this time, and just also showing others that, so that they're not distracted, because we really do have a chance to embrace our freedom, and we're just at the beginning of it. I mean, we're just at the beginning, and it's not something that you control, and it's not something you're going to know. So that's the other thing about what we've been used to, gaining knowledge, and that being a belief, having these knowledge frameworks and belief structures and everything that gave us some sense of security, which is being dismantled, and in its place this new energetic template that is, we don't know what we're doing within it. We can just choose to engage with a process of a very graceful process of evolution.
It is extremely graceful, but it can also be a kind of like the grace of a puppy, who's just learning everything and is so. It's okay. There's a grace in clumsiness. There's a grace in not knowing what the heck, just being brave enough to go, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to bring. And that's exactly where I want to be, because if I get fear-based and then create a whole control grid, I'm going to miss the whole moment. And isn't this hugely important in relationships? We all want to connect. We all want to be present. We want to be felt. We want to be loved for who we are. And isn't this coming into this the only way that could ever happen?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's we're learning to relate from a place of empowerment and equality. This is radical. I mean, most relationships have been based on control. But what if both persons' soul essences can coexist within the union instead of one being demanded to negate that? This is just even in our most intimate relationship, changing this dynamic. And this is new. I mean, if you think about our forebears, our ancestors, the last few generations, we haven't seen a lot of this kind of relationship, this kind of relating. So we're pioneers.
Absolutely.
Because we have access to integrity. We understand what control is. Even some people don't never even questioned that. It was just that was what you did, and that's how you related. And now it's okay. Well, what is true relating, and what are the possibilities of love within that? And we have to give ourselves permission of trying things out, experimenting, and taking risks. Taking risks on something that actually hasn't got any proof at the moment. It's not something that, you're going to understand with your mind, but when you connect from the perspective of the heart, it all makes sense.
Absolutely true. And we are not used to this. The control part of us doesn't like it. I know the control part of me doesn't like it. And underneath is the fear, but I just can't show up in the right way. I just can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing, and all those voices and all those things. And we can just start laughing at ourselves too sometimes,
Yeah, we don't have to take it so seriously. It's also...
They can mind control. You can hear the mind breaking apart with this control, and it's painful, and it's like, I'm dying. And it's okay, because there's this huge possibility opening up to be a manifestation of our greater selves, to remember that. And it can come through if we just get out of the way, right? If we just calm the ego enough, if we open the channels enough, if we allow it. And that higher part, it wants to serve the whole. It cares about the earth. It cares about humanity. It cares about the water and the birds and the animals. It cares about life. It is this beautiful, pure heart that just wants to live in harmony with what is and love and be. It's very innocent of, what Christ said. It will be out of the mouth of babes, and follow the children. And I'm messing up, of course, the quote's terribly, but basically it will come through becoming like children again. And that's beautiful. I mean, that's so beautiful, Sienna, because it's almost not being afraid to care. These people protect themselves by, I don't care about anything. It's not being afraid to care as much as you do, to love as much as you do. Yeah, it's not cool to care that much or to be on fire. And yet that's the most satisfying part of life, is to awaken one's passion. We are almost out of time, if you can believe how fast this
Oh my goodness.
Because we're in infinity when we connect in this way as human beings, as sisters. And we have like a couple minutes. So I do want to mention your book, Revolution of Being, because it really lays out a lot of this in such a simple, beautiful way, and it can be a reminder and a mirror, and it has that energy of loving self-acceptance and of it being okay no matter how much we're fumbling and going through the new and being willing to be lost and in the not knowing. And so how do we get hold of what is the name of your book? How do we get hold of the book? And you're giving sessions, so you do wonderful work with one-on-one, do you not, Emma?
I do, Sienna. Yes, I do personal sessions, and my book is called Revolution of Being, and it's a guidebook to living in times of transformation. It's very simple. It's just short chapters. I've focused on what I saw as the most significant areas that really could empower our transformation during this. And it's available on my website, which is emmastow.com.
And I would encourage people to go to your website to get your book. And for those of them that need a pure mirror, it's so important just to be in the presence of people that are actually living this reality. And I really feel from knowing you, and we are becoming friends, that this is all that you're about. And you are dedicated to it, and you do you make choices based on it, and you're living it as much as you possibly can, and that is really helpful to be in the presence of someone who's doing that, because then it's that direct telepathic transmission that can ignite your own understanding of how it would work for you, which would be completely different than Emma Stow's way of doing it. But nonetheless, I think that's one of the most potent ways that we can jumpstart each other.
Yeah, thank you so much for that acknowledgement, Sienna, and I'd acknowledge you in that capacity, and also everybody listening. I'd like to acknowledge you all for your courageous commitment to this incredible time in humanity, and everything that you're contributing, regardless of what it feels like.
Yes, regardless of what it feels.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
Yeah.
I would like to say that in about a month's time, I will be launching something that will allow all of us to gather together and dive a lot deeper into these experiences, and working very hard on it. And I will announce that probably a week before launch. Please visit my website, stealingthemoon.com, if you wish to have any interface with me. And there's a YouTube channel for all of these YouTubes, and this will be on YouTube, so if you want to share this with friends or your children or your doggies or whatever, put it on again. The YouTube or the archives at Truth Frequency Radio are always available, because I know a lot of people can't exactly listen. It's at midnight to these shows. So it's just nice sometimes to put one on and just lay down and just let it wash over you, just the energetic transmission of people who are dedicated in this way, who can just hold a space, because it's almost like opening a tunnel, a light tunnel. We do it for each other. It's true. We're not any better than anyone. We are stepping up, as we hope that many of you step up and hold the light for the people and the beings in your world, because that's exactly what you can do. Big love to all of you. Thank you for listening.